So now, what we will do now, silent. What we'll do now is we will kind of smooth this mask. How to smooth it? So we go again to the geometry tab. It's very important. And very kind of almost everything is in the geometry tab. Not everything though. So we go to dynamic subdiff. Dynamic subdiff will allow us to see how the model will look, how our current thing, which is the mask, not this, the mask, I'll alt click on it. So how this will look when we apply subdivisions on it. And ZBrush is working with subdivisions. Subdivisions means that when you apply one subdivision, the subdivisions are here in the geometry tab. When we divide one time with Control D, it will break every polygon to 4 polygons. So it will quadrify the polygon count and it will make it smoother. And yeah, at the end every piece of our geometry will be with some subdivision levels. It will be divided, but for now we need to just kind of see how it will look when divided, and dynamic subdiff is for that. So we press just D on our keyboard and ZBrush will ask us, it has 0 subdivisions, do you want to auto-activate dynamic subdiff instead? I will say always yes. And now dynamic is activated. You can also activate it with this dynamic button here. And you see how it smooths the surface, which is nice, but the edges, we don't want them to be that smooth. We need them to be a little bit more sharp, a little bit more crisp. And how to do this, how to keep the edges from being that smooth. First, the subdivisions are only 2. This is smooth subdivision levels. We bump them to 4. 4 will allow us to see it absolutely smooth. You see, we don't see polygons except when we are moving, but when we're moving, for purposes of ZBrush, for purposes of making itself work faster, it just goes to the lower kind of subdivisions, although we don't have real subdivisions here. So we go to crease. Crease, again, in the geometry tab, crease will allow us, this is all in the tool tab in the geometry, crease will allow us to kind of crease one edge so it's sharper. The crease level is 15 now, so it means that it will sharpen it a lot, but we don't need that. We need it at 1, for example, in this case. Make sure to not make any edges, especially on this kind of a stylized character, super sharp. It's completely a beginner's mistake. We always have to have this kind of a smooth, kind of a specular on the edges. If it's super sharp, you don't have specular there, and it's not visible, and it looks odd. So we go to crease 1 crease level, and just press crease, and you see how we have our edge, but it's a little bit sharper. And the crease is going on the edges from this tolerance, crease edge tolerance. If we increase the tolerance, it will make less edges creased. And let me show you how the crease edge is look like. It's a little bit dark, but you can probably see it looks like double edge. You see those edges also are creased in here, and they look like double edges or triple. This is the creased edge. And this also is creased, just this one. Those are not. These 2 are creased. So, for example, if I don't want those 2 here in the middle to be creased, I will increase the seed tolerance to like 66, for example, uncrease all, and then crease again. And now they will not be creased, these middle ones. And when I press D to dynamically subdivide, I will have only the outer edges, which has 90 degrees angle, and lower than 90 degree, they will be creased. The other ones will not be creased. Or in our case, 66 degrees angle and lower will be creased. It's a little bit like strange, but yeah, you will get used to it. No issues. So now I'm kind of happy with this, the crease and everything, so I can apply those subdivisions, for example. But I can first move it a bit. And maybe it could be a bit thicker here, but I think it's okay. And now I can apply the subdivisions. How to do that? we can go to dynamic subdiv and apply. So from dynamic subdiv we need only dynamic, this button. Then we need the smooth subdiv, the other one's thickness, and we don't need. And apply. I was using thickness a little bit at some point, but it's not. It's better to make thickness with the Z modeler brush, to extrude, to make real thickness, because then it's kind of better. Trust me, I'm an engineer. But before we do that, we go to the back of here, and I notice that my angle is very much steep inward. You see, this is going like inward, which I don't like, because if we are making low poly, and it will be bad. I mean, trust me. So I will go here, control click on my outer subgroup or polygroup, and then with the move brush, when I'm on okay, we go here to the back of our mask with the solo mode on. So now I go to my pivot, the gizmo, and then while on the gizmo, I just press Control on this polygroup, the back one, Control, and now you see the other groups are masked and only this is unmasked, which is great. And now I go to my big move brush and start moving this outward very, very easily, because I want this front angle to be not like sharp, but to be a little bit like this, not super sharp, a little bit bigger than 90 degrees, if we can say. That's why I'm moving it like this and this and this, and it should be fine. Let's see. And now I think it could work. Not sure, but let's again go to our pivot or gizmo, control click to mask it, and then from here we can also move this so we can see it. Alright, we can increase, decrease the thickness if we want with a big move brush, just going around it, and you see, it's fine. Now, what I like to do, kind of clear the mask with control dragging, and be careful not to do the Dynamesh in any, when you extract and zero mesh and make it low poly, you forget about the Dynamesh, you don't Dynamesh anymore. You just use extrude, and from there on you only work with the low poly version. Dynamesh will ruin everything for you. It will ruin it. So don't use it ever. So now this, and don't, by the way, be afraid if you mess up something to do it all over again from the beginning. It's not a problem at all. It will not lose your time, because this will be time well spent, because it will be a practice for you, and practice is what you need in this case. I've seen students of mine, they are doing one and the same thing. For example, like this mask, they're doing it one time. It kind of, something goes wrong. They delete it. They do it again, they extrude it again. They do the steps, but in some part of the process it kind of mess up. They delete it, they do it again. So 4 or 5 times, and it takes them like 5 hours to do this mask alone. But I told you, this is time well spent, because you will now, after this, you will know how to make this kind of object, like mask or piece of cloth or whatever. You will be able to do it with eyes closed, for example. So don't worry if you have to do the things again. So apply subdivisions will make sure we have already subdivisions here, and we can move up and down to our subdivisions, or we can use the short keys, which I use. Shift D is to go down subdivisions, and just pressing D with the mesh with subdivisions, Shift D down and just D up. And now when we are up, a little bit more down, maybe in the middle subdivision, we can do kind of, let me try with a little bit like this big, what is this, down standard brush, yes? I will just dig in here. Then I will go again with my pinch brush with Alt and drag. And then I will go up subdivisions and smooth. And you see, this is how you do it. Yeah, I didn't expect to be the result to be that good, so I'm that excited. That's why I said, hey, this is how we do it. That's why I said it. Yeah. Sorry about it. Now, the result is pretty good. And we, by the way, need also to make this kind of thing in here. So we do it on the top subdivision. So we go d to have, in this case, our top subdivision is 5. So we're on the 5, and we kind of start from here, drag and finish here, and then drag back and finish here. And then we just sharpen this. This with the down standard brush. I'm doing everything with the down standard brush, this kind of things. And now with the standard brush, I will dig a little bit more. You will see why. But yeah, and I'm smoothing. I'm always smoothing. I go here and smooth. And now, what I like to do is to introduce inside a sphere, which will be our eye. Let's do this. Let's try to do this. So append. Go to append in our subtool in the tool menu. Append sphere 3D, then select it, then go out of solo mode, and now the sphere is inside the mouth, but we select it from the subtools here, then press W to have our pivot, and from the side view, for example, we snap on the side view and just make it smaller, and then move it as we do with the eyes, and then make it smaller, and around this size probably will be the best, and put it on one of the eyes, inside the eye. And probably we should make it a bit bigger. Maybe a bit bigger even. Alright, and now put it inward, inside. So, the size of it, you will decide how big it will be. But for example, this is fine, and I will now mirror it. I'm on it. I make sure I'm on the subtool, and I mirror, and x-axis merged into one subtool, okay? And we have it mirrored now. Now, I have those two spheres. I press X to have symmetry on them, and then I leave them. I go to my mask, and then I kind of turn on visibility of those spheres, the eyes, because it wasn't. They wasn't visible. They weren't visible. They were invisible. And now I'm biting my lip. I have something on the lip, and I'm biting it. Okay, now I've finished biting my lip, and now we can continue with our mask. So with the mask, I will go with my move brush and just kind of adjust it with a little bit lower subdivision, so I'm not on the final, on the top subdivision, because the top subdivision will it will be bumpy if I try to do it from there. So from here, I'm just trying to achieve something, but yeah, we might want to go a little bit higher on subdivisions, and just maybe with the pinch brush I can go, then I can go with my standard brush, and with Alt I can drag, but make sure you don't click with Alt, because if you click with Alt you will go to the sphere. So we want to stay on the mask, so we just click somewhere and then start pushing here. And you see, now with the big pinch brush I can go and make this thinner, and make this thinner on the sides with the pinch brush. And I think he's looking pretty clever right now. Yeah, maybe the mask could... Yeah, there are things we can do. But before we start doing it, I think it's time for you to become men. Yeah. Now you are boys, but it's time for you to become men. And for you to become men, you will learn how to kind of make a mesh which is dynameshed and which has no subdivisions, to make it with a mesh with subdivisions, to project the high poly detail onto the low poly version of this mesh, and yeah, my tears will start to... You will be a man. Except if you are a woman, then you will not be a man. Guarantee, yeah. Because change of the sex will be a different part of our course. Not this one. So now, how to do... because I want to have lower subdivision of this to be able to do some things which I can do in this higher subdivision, but it will be easier for me to do in the lower. So what I do, I always do this. Duplicate the mesh, then shift click on the eye here. Shift click on the eye. So whatever eye you shift click on, it will either disable all the eyes or enable them. So this means that the subtools will be either invisible, all of them, or visible, all of them. So I want all of them to be invisible, and just those two, without shift I will click on them. Those two which are identical because we duplicated them, they will be visible. Now this tool, the bottom one, I will zero mesh it. So I'll go to zero mesher, which is in the geometry tab again, and I will zero mesh it on like 2.5 or 2.3 in this case, and zero mesh. And I will wait now. Let's see how zero mesher will do it. And we are seeing both of them. So now I will press solo only to see this one. And see. I think it's pretty good. This topology is pretty nice. It's low enough. And I think it's fine. This will not... I mean, we can use this to make the low poly version, but in this case we will not. In our case, we will do it separately. So now, since both of them, the high poly version and the low poly, are visible, we go to the low. We have to go on the low, and we will project with project here in the subtool menu. In the subtool menu, above the extract, extract, but above it, it's project. We open project, and we only need the button, project all, for now. And what we do is Control D to subdivide it. You see, it was like this. We Control D. We have two subdivisions now. And now we project all. Just press project all. Always yes. To project it will ask us to project the poly paint. We don't have it, but whatever. So Control D again and project all again. And now we have our high poly mesh. I'm smoothing here a little bit, and it will smooth better because the topology is nicer. And that's one of the reasons also that we will do this. Because it will be better topology and it will smooth better. And now I think we are ready, and we can delete the high poly. We don't need to project anymore, so I will go to the high poly, press delete, and delete it, and make sure you delete the high poly. And now Shift D and then D, Shift D, and we go down. So we go down subdivisions, we show everything with shift clicking 2 times on this, on the eye. And then I want to make his forehead a little bit more forward. I think it will be better. So I will push it a bit like this. And then the mask, I'll take it and push it also forward. Like this. It's just, I think it will look better. And of course, we need to take our eyes, which are in the bottom, and move them a bit forward also, so they will be more visible behind the mask. Now we'll go to our model, press D a couple of times to the head, and we have this, which is kind of good. Okay, the eyes could be some color, we can make something on the eyes, but for now we don't need that. We go to the mask and make sure we have distance between the eye and the end of the mask. I mean, we have this kind of thickness in here. Yeah, press D a couple of times just to go up subdivision to have this thickness, and it's looking kind of fine. Our fox, we can go down a few subdivisions on the head, smooth some areas, move some areas. For For example, the ear, move it a bit. On the lowest subdivision, we can go here, move, smooth a bit with the smooth brush. But when you're on the smallest subdivision, smoothing will make everything thinner, so we have to be careful. Because we don't have too much detail to smooth, and it will just make everything thinner, which we probably don't want at some point. I will make the head a bit more squarish. Think it will be better. Maybe this, the smile can go a little bit more backward. And here, more visible like this. Going to the ear. Then we can push this with the damp standard brush down. And why I'm doing it on the low subdivision? Because I'm sure when we go to the high subdivisions, everything will be smooth. If we do it on the high subdivision, sometimes bumps appear and it's not pretty. By the way, this is higher subdivision now. The highest subdivision now is 3. I think it's 3. Let's see. Yeah, it's 3. But we probably will go to 4 at some point because I see here some polygons and I don't like that. I need more. So this, by the way, I need it to be sharper. So I'll just go ahead and sharpen it with my high polish brush here, high polish brush here, and high polish brush in the back. And just standard brush a little bit and smooth. And it's kind of sharper now. Nice. And we can go to the damp standard brush and just use it to make this kind of corner shape. Go down subdivisions if we want to move it better. We can pinch it a bit. We can move it. I just want to make this kind of corner in here, which could be nicer. But I'm not sure, I'm just experimenting here. And I think it's time for us to start the body. Because the head, we can go back to it. But most of the time I like to have everything that it will be, and then refine the things that are not refined enough. So now we need to make the body. How to make the body? Of course, like always, append a sphere. So append sphere, select the sphere, it's down here in your stack. And if your stack is like smaller like this, you can go with your slider and go the most down with this slider. But yeah, most of the time the visible count should be around, yeah, however you have. We will have a lot more subtools than that. We'll have one for the body, we'll have one for the boots, we'll have one for the gloves, we'll have one for the tail, one for the cape. That will be it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more probably. I'm not sure if we will have even more than that. But for the body, we select the sphere, press X to have symmetry, put it down, and start modifying it. We have symmetry, and with the big move brush, we can start doing like this, pull it down, make the body, make sure from the side view, he's like with the chest forward, and this kind of curve in his body, like this. It's very important. So make this curve, it will be nice. Also, you see how his shoulders, he doesn't have neck, his shoulders are touching the head on the side. So I will just make with the big move brush and make the shoulders wide. And then, since the shoulders are pretty kind of thin, I will inflate them with my inflate brush, which is our brush number 6. And then I will move it to the back, the shoulders a bit. I'm just trying to achieve some result. We'll see if I will be able to. The width of the body is less than the smile, way less. So it's like this. Also, probably the body will be smaller. So I will move my pivot with Alt or the gizmo and just make the body smaller. Even smaller. Yeah, because he has kind of a big head and pretty small body. And now if I compare, if I put my object, my model, and kind of make it the same size, the head the same size as the concept, and you will see the body is pretty huge. We have to make it smaller, much smaller, like this. And even maybe smaller, but of course when we have hands and other things, we can adjust it. It's not that we have to adjust it now, but at least we can do some adjustment. Now I'm making some of the back muscles here, which I don't have because I don't have to, because it doesn't, it's pretty stylized character, but most of the time it will have kind of this kind of crease inside the middle of the back, most of the time. Then I will push this up, and here we'll have our body. And why am I talking like a robot is because when I'm thinking about how to do the model and everything, I have difficult time thinking about what to say. And you see how I always speak. I don't stop speaking because it's obviously it's boring to stop speaking. You have to speak. Whatever you have to say something. You never stop when you're teaching. So this is a tip for those of you who wants to be a teachers later in your development history. Okay, now we have our sphere. It's a body already. I will push it a bit more. I will make it so he is more like, you know. And then I will Dynamesh it with resolution close to like 50. Dynamesh. I think it's very good Dynamesh. And yeah, we have to make our kind of a chest area. Here, chest muscles. And anatomy will help us here. Because if we know anatomy, we will know that the deltoid muscles, which are the shoulder muscles, are here, and then this is the chest muscle, and they're separated like this, but you don't need to know that for now. I mean, yeah, as a character artist, if you want to be a character artist, you have to learn anatomy, and it's inevitable. But now this course is not about that. It's more like ZBrush beginners course. So we have to learn ZBrush things, how to model, how to make things, and that's the main idea of the course. So now I have this body, and I need to make the arms. So let's start making the arms. The arms we will make with the same brush that we made her of the girl's face when we make the hair, a little hair that coming over her face, which was B and then curve tool brush. So I don't remember the name of this brush. I use it all the time for hands, for fingers, a lot. But I kind of don't need to remember the name, because when we press B and we see all those brushes, it's kind of visible here. It's the brush with the big eyebrows and the mustaches. So I select this brush, and while selected the brush, I'll go to the front view and just make this, which will be our arms. And they're kind of good, and I will accept this curve by clicking on the model, and it's accepted. And now with our gizmo, with W, I can put it wherever I want, and also with the big move brush I can move it. So we don't need to modify the curve, although sometimes we will need to modify the curve, but in this case we just need something which resembles the arm to be there, and then we are okay. So now I see here that his lower arm, this part, the forearm, is pretty huge. So I will make it a bit bigger than the biceps. And now see how when we made the curve and we accepted it, the body now is masked. And this, the hand, the arm, is in the same subtool as the body, but the body is masked so we can move the arm and it's okay. But what I like to do now is to move the arm to its own subtool. Later we will connect them, but for now I need to move it in the separate subtool, which will allow us to be more precise of putting it, because for example, maybe I don't want it to be exactly where it is now, but let's see how to do that. So I have to go to split, this menu here below delete, split, and split will allow us to split certain things. So split unmasked points or split masked points, or group split. If we have few groups and we want to split them, we can do group split, but in this case we have unmasked and masked area, so we can split unmasked or split masked. Let's split unmasked. And now we can select the arms again. It doesn't matter which one we split. I mean, yeah, we can either select whatever we want later after they are split and we continue. The arms should be way shorter. And then at the end we can make kind of a beginning of the hands. Just beginning of those hands. We'll make a hand with 3 fingers in the next video probably, and we will make the glove later. In the beginning we want just this. So this is something like an arm, a beginning of the arm, and a little bit of beginning of a thumb. So it's fine. Yeah, maybe we can fix some things later, but for now it's looking nice. And yeah, we'll finish this video with this. What should I tell you? If you kind of forget something, watch the video again. Don't be kind of shy. It's always useful to watch it a couple of times. You will learn more. If you're serious about becoming a character artist, you have to be fluent with ZBrush. This is very important. And later when we retopologize in ZBrush, you will say, and I will say that almost nobody is retopologizing in ZBrush, and except for me. I haven't heard of anybody else. But the retopology in ZBrush now, for maybe less than a year even, is good enough. It's almost as good as the other softwares like Maya, Max, or even Topogun. Topogun is a software exactly for retopology. It has some tools, but for character retopologizing, ZBrush is good enough. And nobody will ask you where you retopologize your character. They will see just how good is retopology, how good is for animation. Only this matters. So it doesn't matter where you do your retopology. And also when you go to some studio, and you will have ZBrush basically everywhere. They work with ZBrush for characters. So you will always have ZBrush. So you can retopologize in ZBrush. Yes, if you learn how to retopologize in 3D Max or Maya, you may not have it in your studio. You may have Blender, for example, and you learn retopology in Maya. It doesn't matter, by the way, because the tools are not that important. The important thing is to learn how to do it, the principles of retopology. And the principles of retopology, nobody can teach you. It just comes with practice. That's a lot of practice. And of course, to see how somebody is approaching the retopology of a character will be extremely useful in the beginning. But later you have to practice it and kind of develop your own style. But for now, this looks pretty nice, our character. And we can continue in the next video, where we will continue with probably the hands and the arms. So see you later, alligators.